Hey, this is Noah with the Creative Startup Podcast, and today we're talking about working with people. Now, I know a lot of artists have adapted or accepted this very lone wolf mentality. I've got my vision, I know what I want, and I'm the only one to make it happen. However, this mentality is pretty flawed. One, it limits you to only working with yourself and not scaling your operation. So if you want to start a graphic design firm, you can only do so much work yourself. But if you can learn to work with people, you can accept as many clients as you'd like and you can just hire more people. Or maybe you like making music and writing beats and writing songs. You can only write so much. You only have so much time, so much inspiration, so many ideas. But if you pull people together and start a record label, start something that brings people together and pushes them towards a similar goal, then you can really start to scale. You can get bigger and bigger and bigger and help more people and share your music or your art further. Another reason why it's super important to work with other people is because you're not the best artist and neither are they, and neither am I. So the more we work with each other, the more our ideas rub off on each other and we can take some good ideas from our friends and the people we're working with, and they can take some of our bad ideas and kind of ex-nay them, get rid of them. And so that we're always working with the best of the best ideas and the best inspiration. So the first step to think about when you want to work with other people is you want to define your goals. I'm not saying you have everyone sit down in front of you and you tell them what you want. I'm saying everybody in the project has to share what it is that they hope to get out of the project. For example, my friend Hunter, I'm doing his record right now. Say, hey Hunter, I want to do your record. I'll do it for free. My goal is to get some recognition. I have to fulfill this assignment at school, and I want to get my credits on there, and I want to help you as an artist. And then Hunter might say, great, I want my music to get out there, I want to find a broader fan base, and I want something to kind of publicize me a little bit more. And so now I can approach this project understanding what he wants, and he can approach it understanding what I want. So if we're in the studio and we're batting ideas back and forth, trying to brainstorm, come up with new creative ideas, if I want to propose something to him, I'm going to do it from the angle of how it's going to help him get more recognition or how it's going to help him further his career. And if he wants to propose something to me, he can say, hey Noah, I think this would be a great idea because it'll get you recognition as a producer, because it's kind of out there and it'll show that you can do different things. So you see, communicating exactly what your intent is and what your goal is in a project really does help that communication to be streamlined and clear, and it makes those awkward kind of tensions like, oh, you want this and I want this, it just kind of gets them out of the way right at the beginning so you all know what you're shooting for in a particular project. Step 2, define your roles. Now this is probably the most obvious step that I'm going to outline, but it's so important, and I have neglected to do this before and it has not turned out well. I had the studio class last semester. A group of us would go into the studio. Our teacher would bring in a band from someone that he knows or someone from our school or something like that, and then we would record them. And for this one particular class, my teacher wasn't going to be able to make it, so he pulled me aside and said, hey Noah, you're in charge, take the lead this time. It's your turn to be up at the desk, up at the mixing console, running the whole session, and so that's your job. Make sure to communicate that. Then we got into the studio and the band was already there and it was kind of a mad dash to get going, and my friend Brandon sits down at the board and just kind of starts going. You know, he wasn't steamrolling anybody, he wasn't being pushy or mean or abrasive, but I was just going to kind of let him go. You know, I didn't want to step on anyone's toes, and I figured we're already in this. I don't want to disrupt what's happening. Let's just let him go. And so he starts running the session and it's going pretty good. And then another friend of mine steps in and has a suggestion for him. Says, hey, maybe we should use this different compressor to make the vocal sound different. And he says, no, I don't think we're going to use that one. I don't like the sound of that. And she says, yeah, I think we really should. I think it would be really helpful to use this. And then it kind of created this really clear, tough tension in the room. So now everyone's stress level is a lot higher. Creativity level is a lot lower because there's this tension. And if it was defined that, hey, Brandon, my friend sitting at the desk, he's in charge. So if you have a suggestion, make that suggestion clear. But if he doesn't like it, he's in charge. That's his role. But without those roles defined, without that clarity, a suggestion to a super tense, suspenseful situation where nobody really knows who's in charge and people feel like their ideas are being stomped out. And that's never good for creativity. That does not help anyone at any time. Step 3, always be taking kind of the room temperature. If people are feeling tired, or if people are feeling super hyped up, or if people are not loving an idea, It's your job to figure that out before they have to say anything. This is especially important in the studio because a lot of times we'll be doing super long recording sessions. For example, this last winter, me and my friend Hunter were in the studio and we were recording bass tracks. So it was me and him up at the console and our bass player back behind us doing the bass stuff. And me and him are both super psyched up about this project. We're all hyped. We're ready to sit down in the studio for 4 hours and record and just plow through it. But our bass player was tired. He had worked that day and he wasn't really feeling it as much. So Hunter and I are just pressing. Let's get this done. We can do this. Let's get this done. And our bass player is sitting back there kind of feeling, oh, yikes, this is hard. I'm not feeling it. I'm not getting it right now. And so in that situation, we had to just give him a break. We had to cut him loose for a little bit, let him step outside, let him get some food, some water, some coffee if he needed it. And doing that, making a little break in the session, taking that room temperature, feeling out how he's feeling, how I'm feeling, how all of us are feeling, and if there's any incompatibilities, and then addressing those incompatibilities, addressing where we're feeling different, and solving whatever problem it might be there. Because the key to being super creative as a group is for everyone to be on the same page emotionally and with their energy and everything like that. Step 4, if you have to criticize someone, and there will be a time where you have to criticize someone because not everyone's ideas are the best, you got to do it with giving them something first, whether it be a compliment or maybe you buy them a coffee or something, not in a super schmoozy way, but just in a generous way. Make them feel good before you have to critique them, before you have to be super critical of their work. This great book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, has a great example of this. It talks about Charles Schwab, multi-billion-dollar steel and iron tycoon. It says Charles Schwab was passing through one of his steel mills one day at noon when he came across some of his employees smoking. Immediately above their heads was a sign that said no smoking. Did Schwab point to the sign and say, "Can't you read?" Oh no, not Schwab. He walked over to the men, handed each one of them a cigar, and said, "I'd appreciate it, boys, if you'll smoke on the outside." They knew that they had broken the rule, and they admired him because he said nothing about it, and gave them a little present and made them feel important. You couldn't keep from loving a man like that. See, I love this example. People are clearly doing something wrong, and in art it's not always that clear. It's like you're doing this entirely wrong, but people are breaking a rule, or they're doing something that you don't like or that's not helpful to the process. Maybe they've got a bad attitude, maybe they're just throwing down a lot of bad suggestions or being selfish, trying to get their work to the top. And in that case, if you have to criticize them, if you have to stop them, lead in first with a compliment. Buy them a coffee. Say, "Hey, you've been throwing a lot of good ideas out right now, but maybe let's let everyone else talk." Just always make sure to give them something good before you have to give them a little critique or a little bit of negativity. I hope those ideas are helpful. I hope you guys can use them next time you're in a group working together, trying to create something. Again, if you like this show, if you like the podcast, if it's helpful to you, please subscribe down below, and I'll see you next week. Again, this is Noah with the Creative Startup Podcast.